by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, and 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show looking into all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. Our top story comes from Gus Burns at MLive as the FBI has released its 2021 crime metrics recently. And the good news is homicides in Michigan are down, and in many places across the U.S., are down. The bad news, Michigan features several of the highest violent crime cities in the entire country. Keep in mind, as we previously discussed on this show in previous articles, some cities, including the 3 largest in the United States in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, did not report their numbers this year, electing to forego that process for these particular metrics. That being said, among the most violent ranked cities here in Michigan, at number 4 in the country is Saginaw. Number 5 is Detroit. Number 10, Kalamazoo. 17th was Lansing. In our local area, 32 was Pontiac. The 42nd ranked most violent city was Jackson. 44, Flint Township. 48, Flint. And 50 was Battle Creek, with Grand Rapids at 56. Even with that being the case, many of the least violent crime-heavy cities are also right here in Michigan. Among those in the top least violent cities were number 5, Independence Township, number 7, White Lake, number 10, West Bloomfield Township, number 13, Orion Township, and 23rd was Shelby Township, and the 27th least violent city in the U.S. was Commerce Township. Also making headlines today on our website, CivicCenterTV.com, on our local news page from Todd Spangler at the Detroit Free Press. Michiganders may soon have even greater access to reliable, high-speed internet across the state. The Biden administration on Thursday announced the state will receive $250 million in funding for cable and other infrastructure to provide reliable broadband internet services to underserved areas, particularly in some of our more rural regions of the state. The funds come from a COVID-19 bill as well as part of the Affordable Connectivity Program. And this program will reach far, affecting almost 70,000 homes and businesses. And of course, we know so many were affected by unreliable or slow internet during the thick of the pandemic, with distance learning for schools and for businesses trying to operate their business and continue to make some sales and make profits to keep their doors open and pay their employees by going entirely to e-commerce. So having this access through this funding certainly going to go a long way to bridge the technology gap in many of our affected communities right here in Michigan. Finally, making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page from the Detroit News is Hannah McKay. You're about to be cold. It's not going to be very nice. It's going to be much colder than it's been recently. Today, temperatures certainly feeling much more fall-like, with highs in the 40s and 50s, but definitely not near as warm and cozy as the near 70-degree highs that we experienced yesterday. And if you thought the Michigan State Spartans defense was cold, the weather for the big game in East Lansing may be even colder this weekend, with highs in the high 50s, but lows being near freezing in some areas, and could end up being the first official frost of the season, as we discussed earlier on this week. Luckily, little to no precipitation is expected in the local area until about midweek next week on Wednesday. So grab a jacket, because summer's over and fall is here. So it's going to be a lot colder in many of our regions of the state over the next several weeks. And that begins today and through this weekend. All those headlines making news today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page, along with links to COVID-19 information and updates from the CDC, the MDHHS, as well as the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great show ahead on this Friday edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, we'll talk pure Michigan tourism with Kelly Wolgamoth. That's up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program on our website, CivicCenterTV.com/Megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across Michigan, including My Michigan TV, and find all of our full shows and individual interviews on demand. Joining us now on the Megacast, as we are now in the thick of the fall season, and so many people like to go around, see the colors, but also see a lot of Michigan's history. Here to talk about that and more is Kelly Wolgamoth from Pure Michigan, joining us on today's Megacast. Kelly, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. I appreciate being here. And yes, Michigan has a great history. And I think it's really important that, we highlight some of those, attractions around the state that really tell that story of the people that were here before us and left us the legacy.
And some of the great history that we have, so much of it in the southeastern Michigan area and the Metro Detroit area, can be found at places like the Henry Ford Museum and, of course, Greenfield Village. Can you tell us about some of those experiences there and some of the new wrinkles that they're bringing in this season to really help people explore, particularly Southeast Michigan's history, but really the history of our entire state?
Yeah, so today I have 6 ideas for people to travel around the state, and these happen to be 6 locations that I recently visited as well. So they're fresh in my memory, and they do provide, I think, really good snapshot of the Michigan history. And as you mentioned, the Henry Ford and Greenfield Museum, wow, what a gem and opportunity for us here in the state, right? Henry Ford was part of the curation of the original museum, and it really brings history alive. So it's not only Michigan history, but it's Americana as well. So there's, museum pieces that really educate you on the history and technology and innovation. Like, for instance, the chair Lincoln was assassinated in. How about the bus that Rosa Parks was on when she refused to give up her seat? And you can actually sit in the same seat as Rosa Parks and hear her actually talk about that experience while you're sitting in the bus. And there's, a lot of historic presidential vehicles as well in the museum. But then Greenfield Village, the historic buildings that line the streets and homes and workshops and labs, belonging to inventors like Edison and the Wright brothers. Truly a gem and great experience for all ages to go visit.
Yeah, and there's so many great activities there too. You think about also the IMAX theater that they have there is another great attraction for those that want to see some of the movies that are making history nowadays. We'd see them in, of course, the amazing IMAX format, but also explore so much of a variety of different automotive and civil rights and all this other history that is so unique to the state of Michigan and particularly to the Metro Detroit area. They do a great job of that there at the Henry Ford. Another great place to go in Michigan, and actually it's in regions all across the state, are many of Michigan's lighthouses. Many of those historic locations that have a whole great big story behind them.
Yeah, actually, the historic, lighthouses that dot the coastline throughout Michigan. We have the most lighthouses of any other state, and they're so fun to visit and to learn about the histories. The one that I specifically visited recently was the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum, which also has a lighthouse there in Paradise, Michigan. So the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum was actually founded in 1978. But really was founded to support the exploration of historic shipwrecks in Lake Superior. And our fresh water in the state preserves the shipwrecks that we have in the Great Lakes. There's around 6,000 shipwrecks in the Great Lakes. Many of them that you can see from kayaking over or taking a boat over to explore those. But this Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum is truly a gem. Abundant artifacts recovered from shipwrecks in the Great Lakes, including the bell from the 1975 wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too to take a tour through these lighthouses. Some of them still very much active, others not active at this time, but are historical sites that you can really see some of the history behind some of these great waterways that help to build the state of Michigan. So that's a really interesting place to go as well. What are some of your other favorite historical locations in Michigan that are great to see in the fall season or are great to really explore whenever you can get there?
Okay, so I have a few more to share with you. So from Native American history, right? Michigan, we have so much a culture of Native American history here. The Zeebing Center in Mount Pleasant, such a great educational experience. The Museum and Cultural Center really provides that learning of the local American history, story, the spiritual beliefs and culture. Really a great setup and great thing to take the family through. Moving up to the UP, I have a couple other spots in the UP. One would be the Quincy Mine Experience in Hancock, which is an extensive set of copper mines owned by the Quincy Mining Company. It's now a National Historic Landmark and part of the Keweenaw National Historical Park. You can walk through the shaft house built in 1908, and you can even go on an underground tour of the mine. Have you been to that, Tyler?
I've not been to that mine, but I've heard really good things about it. I know
you need to put that on your list. It's a really great experience going into the mine. There is an age limit, so please check their website prior to scheduling any travel plans. But wow, what a great experience to go into the mine. And then once you're in there, you're thinking, wow, I don't know how the miners spent their entire day underground doing this work and the service that they did. So truly amazing. And while you're in Hancock, Houghton is right there, right? They also have a really unique, I think, museum. And I honestly didn't even know it was there until recently I had the opportunity to visit, but it's the A.E. Semen Mineral Museum of Michigan Tech. And it really talks about the whole history of the UP, the iron industry, in the museum. And it also houses 25,000 different mineral specimens from around the world in Michigan. It's really a fun and unique museum, and something that is so family friendly and provides, again, that touch point of the Michigan history. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go to Southeast Michigan again.
Sure, absolutely.
Because I really think we have really a gem when it comes to Michigan history, and that's that music. And we can't, not talk about Motown Museum, right? Hitsville, USA. The Motown Museum transports you back to the 1950s, learn about the iconic music history of Detroit's very own Motown style, and see how it connects to the future. You can actually go into the recording studios that Jackson 5 or Stevie Wonder stood in. It's truly a gem in talking about the history of Detroit.
We're joined by Kelly Walgamot from Pure Michigan on today's edition of the Megacast. Of course, you can find more information on many of these historic locations and different fun and interesting things to do this fall by visiting Michigan.org. Michigan.org for more information. Kelly is the Director of Travel Marketing with Pure Michigan, joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. Of course, you got all these other great common destinations here in Michigan. Of course, the city of Detroit, you mentioned, has so much great history there as well. Certainly the DIA is a great place for art history, both in the Detroit area, but also worldwide. And then you think of some of those common locations that are great in the summer, but also great in parts of the fall as well, to see some historical landmarks such as Tequamanon Falls or Pictured Rocks, or even Mackinac. And seeing really Mackinac in the fall is another great look into the works of that classic Americana small town environment before the modern age. So there's so many great places to go this fall. What are some of those hidden gems, Kelly, that you have really enjoyed going to in past falls or even past couple seasons here in Michigan that people should be putting down on their list? And maybe if they don't go this fall, they go this winter or this spring, this summer to visit some of these locations.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think the beautiful thing about the museums, right? You can visit them in any season. Yeah. So if you want to get a break and want to go indoors, there's that opportunity in the fall and winter times. But of course, Michigan's out about going outdoors and exploring, right? And the fall colors are still here. There's still great opportunities to go around the state, even in your car, or just, go visiting the local cider mill. Go pick some apples. Apples are abundant this year as well, and delicious. I've actually sampled a few, and a few cider mill donuts. And it's just a fun opportunity to get together with your family and friends and connect. And there's so many museums. I know we just touched on a few today, and there are so many other great museums to visit in the States. And we do have all of those listed, as you mentioned, on our website, michigan.org, to help your trip planning.
Another great place to go to learn more about some of the historical markers around the state and some of these different locations that are historical sites that you can see along the way in some of the towns and the cities that you're visiting for some of these locations. And they're great resources to go to the state's website, michigan.gov/MHC, and then select historical markers. And it'll give you access to a map of historical markers all across the state. So you can find some of those historic lighthouses, these other locations as well. And of course, places you can go in between some of these many great locations that Kelly has talked about today. We're joined by Kelly Walgamot, the Director of Travel Marketing for Pure Michigan, on today's edition of the Megacast. Kelly, a couple more minutes with you today. Any other locations that would be interesting or activities coming up in Michigan that would be interesting for individuals or even for families to mark down and keep in mind this fall season?
Yeah, and the holiday season's right around the corner, right? And looking forward, I think Michigan does that well in our small communities. And I think one of the other gems that we have in the state is Frankenmuth. And not only do we have quite of an amazing Bronner's store, Christmas store, that's open, 363 days a year. But during the holidays, Frankenmuth transforms into a Christmas town. So they've made a great effort of additional decorating throughout the town, lining their already adorable Bavarian style town and providing just, a relaxing opportunity to go shopping, to go have some great food, and enjoy that time with your family. So I think, there's also tons of events this fall. Events have come back. Yeah. That's one thing that I think people have missed so much is going to these wonderful events that we have throughout the state. And we have a number of events highlighted on Michigan.org. You can actually filter that by the date that you want to go and look around the state to see what's available. A great resource for everyone.
Your trip always begins at Michigan.org. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. On the other side of our break that we'll take here, we'll talk to Michael Greiner from Oakland University. Plenty of issues at the statewide level, the national level, and the worldwide level affecting the markets and affecting economies all across the globe. We'll talk to Michael Greiner. Coming up next, you're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live, local, 5 days per week TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across the Great Lakes state, as well as find all of our full programs and individual interviews on demand as well. There's plenty going on in the U.S. and around the world affecting markets, both domestically and internationally. Here to talk more about that is Michael Greiner, an assistant professor of management at Oakland University School of Business Administration. Michael, thanks for being with us today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, and happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday to you as well. Not so happy of a Fridays lately for former Green Bay Packers star Brett Favre, as he's made some pretty bad decisions allegedly over the last several years. So there's a big scandal going on where he had collected funds, allegedly had collected funds for a charity, and then ended up that those funds were then forwarded to his alma mater, to his daughter's school, the University of Southern Mississippi, where she played volleyball to help promote their programs and build some of their programs up. And this is a huge scandal. Over $8 million was forwarded for those purposes when they were meant for an organization that helps affect the poor. Tell us a little bit more about this scandal and just how much fire Brett Favre is under and others are under, because this goes well beyond just the former quarterback.
Yeah, it sure does. And thanks for bringing this up, because this is really an outrage that I think everybody should really be bothered by. Brett Favre, of course, earned over $140 million playing football, and here he is basically taking money that was meant for poor people. And it's not just, you're right, that the most of it is aimed at essentially a grant to a university where his daughter attends and plays volleyball for a new volleyball stadium. And ironically, he was warned by the university president, as was the governor, that this was not a good source of money. That really what this came down to is Favre at one point had made a commitment that he was going to pay for this stadium. And instead of paying for it himself, he then went to the state and was able to procure these funds with the assistance of the governor and some other people in the leadership of the state house. So this really is a scandal. But as you say, it goes beyond that. He received more than just the $5 million. He also received $1.1 million, basically a check written directly to him for services that he never provided. He claims, of course, that he didn't know anything about where the source of these funds were, but there have been text messages that have been released that have showed that, in fact, he was very conscious of the fact that this wasn't quite kosher. And even if it wasn't something that he knew was coming directly from this fund in particular, he was aware that it wasn't quite legal, because at one point he texted the state administrator for the program asking, hey, is there any way they can find out where these funds are coming from? So he knew what was going on here. And each time he's made some type of excuse for his involvement, text messages have come out that have shown that really he knew what he was doing, he knew it was inappropriate, and he went ahead and did it anyway. So it's really outrageous. And in addition, of course, to the $1.1 million, which he has paid back, to give him credit for that, although he hasn't paid interest, which is demanded by the state, he also got investment into a company that he's a big investor in. So all these things seem so incongruous, especially where these are funds that, again, were meant for the poorest people in Mississippi, which is the poorest state in the country. Almost 28% of children in Mississippi live in poverty. And these are the funds exactly that would be aimed at helping these people. And instead, they're going to help Brett Favre essentially escape from an obligation he'd made to his alma mater. Quite disturbing. But the fact of the matter is, Favre is really just the most prominent face of this, as you point out. This goes much deeper. And in fact, there has been an audit that was done by an external auditing company, and they've said that as much as $77 to $94 million were spent inappropriately from this program. So Favre's $8 million, while significant, is still only one piece of this huge scandal. And some of the other people who are prominent who've received money include Ted Dibiase, who some may know as a wrestler, former professional wrestler, who is known as the $1 Million Man. Well, apparently the $1 million he gets is from the state. So it really, and there are all sorts of other, in fact, one individual who is in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services for the state has actually been convicted of a crime for his involvement in this. So this is not some minor thing. And ultimately, though, I think it goes back to a systematic problem here, which is that back in 1996, when this program was established, it's called Temporary Assistance for Needy Programs, or TANF. It replaced a federal program where the federal government would essentially step in and write checks to people who, were facing short-term financial problems. And essentially, as a result of some pressure from Congress, this program was changed from being a federally administered program to being a program where the federal government would give what are called block grants to the states, where each state could essentially take these funds and then spend them pretty much any way they wanted, as long as they were spent within certain parameters, which certainly these expenditures are outside of. But at any rate, the fact that these funds are given to the states and then they have so few checks and balances is really what has enabled this to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, if we find out that other states are involved in similar things. Maybe not as scandalous as this one in particular, but certainly where we've seen inappropriate uses of funds that really should be going to helping people who are dealing with poverty.
And other public officials also are involved in this. As was reported previously by Ross Adams at WPT TV, ABC 16 in Jackson, Mississippi. The state's former Department of Human Services Executive Director John Davis also was implicated in this and actually pled guilty to charges with the state's $77 million welfare fraud scheme. That's where that was at that point in time, September 22nd, when this was reported. It was just at 77 million, and now it's, as Michael said, between $77 and $90 million in welfare fraud happening between these individuals. Also making
and I wouldn't be surprised if we see more charges, by the way. This is a huge scandal that is really only getting rolling here.
Yeah, it is. It's really just in its infancy, and we're only starting to see sort of some of these connections and the connections to connections. This could be a large-scale scheme that we haven't quite gotten the full scope of just yet. We're joined by Michael Greiner from Oakland University. He is an assistant professor of management at their School of Business Administration. Also making news that may affect many of our markets, particularly those in social media, is Elon Musk has now gone back to saying that in his efforts to buy Twitter, he is looking to go back to his original offer to buy Twitter. And that's really what he's adamant about. He's going to stick to that. And he still is intent on buying Twitter, even though, as had happened in previous months when this was first really making news, shortly after it seemed like he was backing out of this. How close is this sort of deal for Elon Musk to take over Twitter?
Well, I think this is definitely going to happen, and probably happen sooner rather than later. Frankly, when I first saw this report, I kind of had to laugh, because from the first day I heard the announcement, I predicted two things. Number one, that Musk was going to regret the offer and try to get out of it. Number two, that he was going to be forced to go through with the deal anyway. He signed a contract with Twitter, essentially making this offer for $44 billion. That's billion with a B. In that contract, he basically did what's called waiving any kind of due diligence, where he said that he wasn't going to require them to provide him with any kind of documentation to justify his purchase or to back up any kind of claims that they've made. Instead, he was just saying he wanted to buy Twitter. I guess the best way to describe it is as is. That's what the contract said. So later on, when he's suddenly claiming, there are these things that have come up that suddenly seem to be indicating that it's not such a good deal, especially in light of the fact that markets had dropped since he made his offer, which both reduced the value of Twitter and reduced his own wealth, which made it therefore that he'd have to spend a larger percentage of his own money in buying this company than he would have had to before. Suddenly he wants to get out of it, and he's claiming, that they're not showing him all the documentation that they're required to offer. But the point is, in the contract, he specifically had agreed they didn't need to show him anything. So at a certain point here, as I described to my students, a contract's a contract, and you're bound by a contract, whether it's a good deal, a bad deal, that you're allowed to make a bad deal and the courts will enforce it. And that's exactly what's going on here. I think that Musk realizes that the problems with Twitter are much more serious than he had anticipated, that fundamentally they come down to the fact that, frankly, people prefer Facebook and other social media platforms than Twitter. And as a result of that, Twitter has been struggling in getting the kind of advertising revenue that some of these others have had. And that's not the type of thing that him, with all his celebrity status and all his claims of how he's going to change things, is really going to be able to do anything about. So my expectation is that Twitter is going to require, or at least request, that the court basically oversee this, so that he can't try to get out of this deal any more than he already has. And frankly, again, this is not a surprise to me. I think that the deal is going to go through, and if I were a betting man, I would say long run, I'd be betting against Twitter right now.
We're joined by Michael Greiner from Oakland University on today's edition of the Megacast. Michael also making news that also involves the courts and will certainly affect the market in the months to come and in the years to come. Donald Trump, of course, under investigation for some of his alleged misuse of presidential records that he had also allegedly had with him in his home in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. And now he's asking the Supreme Court to intervene, particularly to protect certain parts of his personal information, including his finances and his presidential records. Just how you're an attorney, just how far along is this investigation, and what are some of the ways that this investigation should go further? Certainly, if charges are brought against the former president, how could that affect markets here in the U.S., especially as we approach 2024's election season very soon, just about a year away? We'll be talking about presidential candidates on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you for bringing those up, Tyler. This is one of those situations where sometimes it's tough to see what's actually going on because there's so much political rhetoric going on both sides. So basically what had happened here is that you had Donald Trump take a bunch of documents with him from the White House when he left and took them down to his home in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. And among those documents was at least 100 classified documents, essentially top secret documents, which reportedly have included things as sensitive as including nuclear secrets of the United States, as well as also the names and other identifying characteristics of some of the confidential sources of informants that we have in other countries, which you can imagine the value that information would have to some of our enemies and even some of our allies, for that matter. So this is a very serious matter. And apparently, the way that it was discovered originally is that the National Archives was looking through the documents that were at the White House after the president had left, and they discovered that certain documents that they knew about were missing. So they kept making requests to Donald Trump that he return these documents that had been taken. And despite numerous requests and despite some appearances of cooperating, each time it turned out that all the documents had not been returned. And in fact, we just heard yesterday that the National Archives is thinking that there's still documents out there that haven't been returned that could include some classified documents. So this is just an unbelievable situation. I don't understand how Donald Trump has caused this problem for himself. Why not just give back the documents? But at any rate, ultimately, after numerous requests, as we know, there was this search warrant that was issued where the FBI was able to go down and essentially look through Mar-a-Lago and find some of these documents. They found, as I said, over 100 classified documents, which have been returned since then. As at the same time, though, they also seized other documents. What the search warrant allowed is for them to seize not just classified documents and governmental documents, but the documents that those documents were essentially filed with, because of the fact that they wanted to show kind of the context of where these were and where these documents weren't being safeguarded in a way that you'd want our things like our nuclear secrets or espionage secrets to be kept. And so all those documents were taken. The FBI is undergoing a review of these documents. And after they have essentially completed the review, then Donald Trump's lawyers file a motion with a court in Florida, essentially asking the court to order this investigation to stop. And the basis that they're claiming is that some of those documents that were seized might be covered by what's called privilege, which means that it should be kept confidential even from the attorneys at the government. Now, the privilege that he's claiming are two kinds of privilege. One is attorney-client privilege, which is really the most sacred privilege we have here in the United States. People seem to think a lot of the time that there are things like, doctor-patient privilege or journalist interviewee privilege or penitent clergy privilege. And the fact of the matter is, legally, none of those privileges actually exist. The one privilege that does exist, though, is attorney-client privilege. And so courts are very sensitive to that. Another privilege, though, that exists, though, is the idea of executive privilege, which kind of speaks to the fact that we want the president and his advisors to be able to discuss serious matters of state in private and to consider different options without having all those options plastered across the front pages of the newspaper. That claim is problematic given the fact that Donald Trump, number one, is no longer president, and number two, that the Department of Justice is part of the executive. So to claim executive privilege when part of the executive is asking to see these documents is problematic. Nevertheless, the court in Florida granted the motion essentially to require someone called a special master, who's a former judge, to basically review all the documents and determine which of the documents are covered by privilege and to segregate those documents so that the Department of Justice doesn't include those in its investigation and its review. And as part of the order, the court ordered that any kind of review of the documents stop, which again, this was filed after the FBI had already completed its review of the documents, so it's kind of a weird situation here. But nevertheless, that's where we stood. The Department of Justice then appealed to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which, in really a striking opinion, reversed the ruling of the district court judge. And it's important to note here, because I'm sure people are going to say, "Oh, politics this, politics that." Two of the three judges on that panel who reversed Judge Eileen Cannon's ruling in Florida were Trump appointees, actually. So these are people who did not owe anything to the Democrats or have any kind of axe to grind with Donald Trump. You have to give them credit that they were following the law. And the law really doesn't give any basis for withholding these top secret documents from the review of the Department of Justice. So subsequent to that, then, the special master, who actually was suggested by Donald Trump and then agreed to by the Department of Justice, started making some demands on Donald Trump. And as a result of that, then they've appealed to the Supreme Court. Now, there's a lot of talk about what this appeal involves. As it turns out, this appeal involves the narrowest of technicalities. The request is simply saying that Donald Trump and his attorneys are arguing that the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals did not have the authority, did not have the jurisdiction to essentially allow the Department of Justice to continue on with its review of the documents. That's the only issue that's before the Supreme Court right now. Now, you have to remember, the Supreme Court does not take all the cases that people request for it to take. It receives thousands of requests every year and hears less than 100 cases a year. So what they do is that they literally have to agree to hear the case. And what we call that is granting cert, or certiorari as a Latin term. Essentially what the court has to do is say, yes, this is an important enough issue for us to review it. And frankly, the way that the court has handled some of these requests from Donald Trump in the past, I don't think is going to give them a lot of hope that the Supreme Court is going to back him. Even though, yes, there is, people talk about, this 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court. When it's come to requests by Donald Trump to essentially protect him from certain investigations or requests from documents, the Supreme Court has repeatedly basically batted down those requests. And I expect that's going to happen again. And probably what's going to happen is the Supreme Court is simply going to decline to hear the case. And as a result of that, the ruling by the 11th Circuit is going to stand and the investigation will go forward. Now, you ask a great question, which is how this will affect markets. The reality here, and this is kind of one of the most, I don't know if it's shocking or surprising, or I don't think anything should be shocking or surprising in this day and age, knowing our politics now. But seeing recent polling data, none of this has impacted Donald Trump's standing with his supporters in the Republican Party. So most of the research I've seen seems to indicate that if Donald Trump were to run for president, he would probably win the Republican nomination again. So that would that would create an interesting scenario where we see someone who was formerly defeated for president running for president again, now with all this burden of all these investigations following him. Some people might say that if he's convicted, he should not be able to run. In fact, the law is not clear on that he probably could still run. And so it's hard to imagine that he would not run if he intends to. And from everything I've heard and seen, it sounds like he does intend to. So that could certainly lead to a situation where markets get concerned about the fact that literally one of the two major candidates for president is under this kind of legal pressure. It could really cause markets to go even crazier than they have been over the last few years. So I think it's definitely something to watch out for in the long run.
Well, Michael, we appreciate your time and your insight on all these different issues. Certainly a lot going on in our world that's going to affect all areas of our life, both financially, economically, and politically going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Have a great weekend.
You as well. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to the CEO and founder of Maggie's Wigs for Kids of Michigan. Maggie Varney joins us next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live, local, 5 days per week TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Joining us now on the Megacast is Maggie Varney, CEO and founder of Maggie's Wigs for Kids of Michigan. Maggie, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us in today. We appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, good to have you with us. You and your organization do some great work for kids here right in the state of Michigan. Tell us off the bat some of the history of Maggie's Wigs for Kids of Michigan, how this organization was founded, and the ways that you help kids right here in Michigan.
Well, I'm a licensed cosmetologist. I've been in the industry for about 50 years now. And I've worked with adult patients for the last 35 years and owned a salon. And I had a child, I teach a program at the hospitals, and I had a child come to my class and found out she's 16 years old and found out there was no program for children. So I thought, well, I own a salon. I'm a certified hair restoration specialist. I certainly can help a few kids. How many kids could there possibly be? And 19 years later, you and I are having this conversation, and 5,000 children and families later. So it really came about because they say find a need and fill it, and that's what we did. And I'm very pleased to say that I know the impact that we have and the difference that we make, but we certainly, as you know, with all nonprofits, no one does it alone. I have a great team and a wonderful board of directors and a fabulous community and a wonderful state that supports us.
And you've done remarkable work. As you said, over 5,000 kids affected in 19 years by the work that you do. What are the age ranges of the kids that are affected by your work and the organization's work?
Well, we help children all throughout the state of Michigan, ages 3 through 18, that are experiencing hair loss for any reason. When I first started this program, it was really about putting wigs on their heads, and my focus was children with cancer. And we do service all 8 hospitals throughout Michigan that service pediatric oncology. But I soon expanded that program. After a while, I found out that other children were reaching out to us, children with alopecia, which is an autoimmune disorder where the children, their body rejects their own hair, and trichotillomania, and dog bites, and lupus, and blood disorders, and skin diseases. And there's so many reasons why children lose their hair. And so I certainly didn't want to turn any child away. So we expanded the program. And then after working with them a couple of years, and just listen to the kids, and they're so honest and open, and they tell you what they need. And I realized that, yes, the wig is what allows them to go back out into society and feel and look normal and fit in with their peers. But they also needed help in healing emotionally, socially, and psychologically. So in 2010, we reached out and opened a storefront and expanded our programming to include support in all of those areas to help them as they journey through their health challenge.
wigsforkids.org. That's wigs, the number 4, kids.org for more information. 586-772-66 6656 is also their phone number, 586-772-6656 for more information. You also hold a what's called Creating a Total Image workshop. Can you tell us about those workshops and what goes on with those?
Well, those are for my adult patients, and now I have customized them for children as well. So, because their image and there's so many changes in their skin and not only their hair, but their nails. And they don't, if you're a kid and you're 10 years old, you don't know how to make eyebrows. If you lose your eyebrows or eyelashes or the changes in your skin color, or your nails fall off or they turn black, they don't know how to deal with that. So we help them with all of the appearance-related side effects of the treatment, and we make it fun. We have classes where they come and they get a whole kit so they can replicate this at home. Of course, and everything all the children receive here is at no charge.
You also hold what are called Cut-A-Thons. And so how can someone host or participate in a Cut-A-Thon?
Well, they can visit our website at www.wigs.org, and right on there we have information on how do I donate my hair and how do I host a Cut-A-Thon. So people host Cut-A-Thons for us. Last year we received 23,000 hair donations from 66 countries around the world. So we get hair, we service children of every different ethnicity, which is great that we get hair from around the world so we can make the wigs, and we use that hair to make the wigs for the children because each one is custom made for each child based on their head size, because their little head size changes every year. So every year they need a new wig.
You also have in St. Clair Shores, you mentioned you have a brick and mortar location. St. Clair Shores is one of your Go Green salons. And of course, I'm a Michigan State grad, so when I hear Go Green, that's always exciting to me. But this is even more exciting than that. You're doing some great work there. Tell us about the Go Green salon and what are some of the ways that this salon actually helps people that are going to be affected by your organization?
Well, when we built our new center a couple of years ago, the need was so great and we just continued to grow. We started out 560 square feet on the side of a building with no sign for 7 years. And that's about the size of a bedroom. And now we're 5,000 square feet. So the program continues to grow, and as the need does. So we want to make sure we can accommodate our children. And inside of Wigs for Kids, people like to come here and have the experience of donating their hair. One is going to be done properly, secured properly, and there are instructions right on our website. So you can take it to your local. You can print that off and take it to your local salon and let them know, because we have over 900 supporting salons that collects hair and sends it to us as well. But inside of Go Green, when they come here, they get a tour of the whole facility. They get to see the wigs and the children that come in and out, possibly if they're here at that time. And inside the salon, we are just a full service salon, but that generates revenue. That, the wigs are free, yes, to the families and the children we serve, but someone has to pay for that. So it is through the kindness and generosity of people who adopt a child and sponsor a child and pay for the making of the wig, because the hair is donated, or we supplement with the income that comes through Go Green Salon. The reason it was important to me to have a green salon was because our kids, their health is compromised. And besides, it's the right thing to do for our world and our environment. So the products that we use, from the paint on the wall to the tile on the floor, everything is green. And all the products that we use, and the children that we give them a full wig kit, and everything that they receive, from the makeup to the skincare to the hair products that they get, everything is green, and they pay nothing for that. And we're very fortunate that we do have, because I'm part of the beauty industry, we also have the support of the beauty industry, who either donates some of the products or gives us a very generous discount so we can afford to supply these for the children, You
can find the Go Green Salon at 30130 Harper Avenue in St. Clair Shores, 30130 Harper Avenue in St. Clair Shores, or call them 586-772-6656, 586-772-6656. Maggie, anything else for us about the organization? You got about a minute left that we should know before we let you go today.
Yes, if you come to Go Green Salon, you don't even have to be a hair donor. Not everybody. Some people have gray hair and they can't donate. Some people have color treated hair and they can't donate because we don't accept chemically treated hair. But they can still come here and get their professional beauty services because half of it pays the stylist and the other half of it goes back to the center to help cover the cost of making the wigs. Most importantly, if you guys ever know of a child in need of our services, we make it really simple. They go online, they fill out a 2-page application, we call them immediately. There is no waiting. We get them on the schedule right away and we see the child. And, please let us know if you ever know of a child in need of our services. We help everyone. We charge nothing and we turn no one away.
Wigs4kids.org is their website. Maggie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I also want to thank Share Detroit for this wonderful opportunity because that's how we found out about you guys. So thank you. Anytime we're out in the media, honest to God, we get tons of calls from volunteers, children who need our services, families. So thank you.
Absolutely. We're glad to help. Maggie Varney from Maggie's Wigs for Kids on today's edition of the Megacast. That is going to do it for our shows this week. We'll return next week with new episodes beginning Monday at 10 a.m.